morning, guys. I know it's a Saturday. You're not really used to seeing a bunch of three of us really on ET Now. But guess what? It's a historic day. It's the Union Budget Day. It doesn't really happen on a weekday, but even stock markets are opening. So we thought we're going to just get us a coffee shot. We're here at Starbucks early in the morning before we get into the studios.
And it's going to be a
Wake
long
up
day.
a bit.
Exactly.
And
Day.
get to the studios.
I need my caffeine shot in the morning.
So
That's how I start
so
my
do
day.
all of us.
Yes.
I think we're going to have a few takeaways as well.
It's been a long time coming, this budget, right?
No, you know,
Many working Saturdays, and finally at the fag end of the week, you've got the budget announcements. Markets are also trading today. This is one of those unusual days. I hope it plays the part.
You know, so the way I look at it is that the economy needs a caffeine shot and the country needs a green tea. So you need to be both structural
Both need
and
caffeine.
instant. No, well, with green tea, I would say it's healthy. So we are talking about labor reform, structurally. Thank you very much.
Talking about caffeine, our
Yes.
caffeine short is here. Perfect.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. So when I say a green tea, it has to be deep and structural, something which will detox you. And when it needs caffeine, something instant which will boost the consumption, fix the economy. So it has to be in balance of both.
But we've got a lot lined up as well in terms of how we're going to make sure we're covering this budget from all angles. Lots of special things as well this morning, Nikunj, as we can see, starting off here at Starbucks itself, setting the mood for the day.
I think this is the first budget of the decade, and I would say for our viewers today, it's about experiencing the first budget of this year and this decade on ET Now. So I would encourage and invite our viewers to come, not watch, but experience this year's Union Budget.
Yeah, and it's coming at a special time,
this
while
is-
just driving. What is that?
You know, it's espresso shot with milk. So not cappuccino.
So the economy needs a special concoction. Is that what you're trying to hint? Okay, Abba's making my
Aisha?
coffee.
Yep.
Sweet enough as always. But, I was just thinking while driving here to work, as to this budget is not just the first of the decade, but it's coming at a very unusual time. When was the last time you had the economy struggle sub the 5% mark? IMF coming out, and you get goosebumps the minute IMF starts talking about what their growth projections are for the economy and the world. You've come at a time when inflation is the big catch point, crude prices are just so volatile. And more importantly, this is also the time when your economy has really been languishing. So, I don't know, it's a catch-22 situation, and just like your coffee, the finance minister will also have to come up with a special concoction this time.
They will have to, Aisha. Normally I know budget is not a forum when you would say big reforms have to be discussed. But the need and the want and the demand this time is very different. The need is to fix the economy both structurally and in the short term. The want is that taxes should be reduced, and corporate taxes have been reduced, on personal tax it should be reduced, and the demand is really to take LTCG out so that the capital market it revives. But for me the broader thing is that the caffeine shot is going to be cut taxes. But again, what about land, labor, high capital cost? Is India competitive enough to do business?
But Nikunj, I really feel that all that is secondary right now. Right now, you're coming at a time when the world and their uncles are okay with you missing the fiscal deficit target. It's a given, but they want you to, challenge that and compromise on that purely for growth. I think growth, I know the instruments that you've talked about are only going to propel growth forward, but I think that takes secondary importance. Right now is cut taxes, get consumption back, get the economy
But they
going.
may not have the tools, if they are lacking in the tools, perhaps a 360-degree approach, given it's a time when the world is watching to see what kind of signals India sends. And yes, you're right, one is, of course, the decision they take on the FISC, but it's also about creating those structural changes, or at least implying that they are thinking about those. Because we've got the IMF coming out and saying that India is responsible for denting global growth, right? So the world is watching from a market standpoint, of course, but also from how it can really be a critical part of the growth story overall.
See, I would say that in terms of a messaging, it should be one of those budgets which we should say it should be do no harm budget. Somehow the communication after the last budget was that it was an anti-rich budget. It was about taxing, and it was not really about really taking the economy to a different level. So first it should be do no harm budget. The communication and the attitude as to are they
The messaging.
in favor of wealth
very
creators
important.
or are they in favor of taxing the wealth creator? That really needs to be monitored. And then, whether it's caffeine or whether it is an egg white omelette
Or a Red Bull.
or a Red Bull, the economy needs a stimulus. The economy needs a stimulus. The only challenge, Abba, with that stimulus is that you compromise on the fiscal, you start spending more.
Yeah.
But will that go towards creating inflation? That's the last thing you want. The good thing for this government is that they've managed to keep महंगाई or inflation under control. By extra spending, if that comes back, then it's bad news. And that's not even bad news. That's horrible and terrible news. That's the last thing you want. Or how are you able to channelize that spending towards productivity? Nobody has an easy answer.
Okay, guys, I think that's the studio calling us. We'll just keep sipping coffee, discussing the economy. We've got a long day ahead. So let's drink
I was
up.
going to say, Aisha, given the fact that we're working the entire weekend, I really hope she has some takeaways, some headlines,
She better
some
make it
message.
worth it.
Exactly. There has to be something.